Okay, well, you're going to enjoy today's video, I think, anyway. We're going to take a look at the auction listings for my items from Malvern. Now, if you're unaware of what went on in Malvern, then please, I'll link the video in the description. Go and watch that. But basically, I shared my day out at Malvern. I hired a van, I loaded it to the brim. It was a big van, long wheelbase, and I filled it. I went up to Malvern and I sold in Malvern and I done about £1,500, which for the amount of things I took was extremely poor. And I made some observations up there. First of all, I thought, well, there was no real trade after most of the items I sold to the other stallholders before they even opened the gates. Once they opened the gates, normally you see a flood of dealers come rushing in. I didn't get that. It was a little trickle of dealers that were sort of eBay resellers, but actual dealers, traditional dealers with shops and things like that, who buy larger items, I didn't see them. I really didn't. And as the day went on, it got worse and worse with the public wanting everything for absolutely nothing. They were treating it like a car boot sale. And this was Malvern Giant Flea Market. And normally, I've dealt with Malvern for almost 30 years. I've been buying up here for a long, long time. And I was shocked. It was just surreal to see how things had changed. It was an eye opener. So then I started asking myself, is it my stuff's out of fashion? Is it that the dealers are not going there anymore? The dealers would rather go to an auction and just buy it straight from auction. Is it that there's a new wave of dealers who don't yet have the knowledge to go out to antique fairs and buy the stuff themselves, so rely on the auctioneer's descriptions? I don't know. Whatever the reason was, didn't recognise Malvern. Malvern was a total discrepancy to what I'm used to. I didn't expect it to be the way it was. So coming home, I said, I am not putting this stuff back in the lockup. So I'm taking it to auction. And I put all the larger items into auction on a no reserve sale. So every single thing is going to sell, even if it sells for £1. Now, I didn't know auctions start at £1, but apparently this one does. £1. Some of this stuff I've paid hundreds for. It's a gamble, but it's going to answer a few questions. It's going to answer me this: is some of these larger pieces that they've got that you're going to look at now out of fashion? In which case, nobody wants them. That's a possibility. Maybe the dealers are not going to Malvern and they're just going straight to the auctions. That's a possibility. Maybe I was too expensive on them. That's also a possibility. Because everything sells at the right price. But when you feel you've got to give the stuff away, then it starts no longer being fun. Anyway, we're going to take a look at what I've got in the auction. Now, I'm a little disappointed. I want to say I've dealt with this auction house for a very, very long time. We're talking almost 2 decades. I haven't dealt with them for quite a few years, but I've been dealing with them for nearly 2 decades. Right? With this auction, you print off the form, you write your own description or title, you submit it, and then they just copy normally what you've put on the page. However, they've changed. They've changed the titles, and the description is only a copy-paste of the title into the description. They haven't bothered with a proper description on my items. Now, they may do a proper description on the dearer items in the day 2 sale, I don't know. But my items seem to have a very copy-paste description. Title and descriptions are almost identical, if not identical. And they put the catalogue out yesterday, and I was extremely, extremely upset to see none of my items had images, or maybe one or two did, but majority of my items didn't have images. So with a poor description, poor title, and no image, I thought, well, what chance have I got? And I was sat there today chatting with Kieran, and I was thinking, shall I pull the lot? Shall I take them all out of auction? They haven't put a decent description on. They haven't given them an image. They haven't added sizes. I got a big, beautiful rocking horse on. They haven't even put the size of the rocking horse on it. No, I'm not being funny. That's a little lazy. Your job is to sell an item and get the most money you can for it. For every pound they get off the members of the public, I have to pay 20 pence, and the members of the public have to pay 20 pence. So for every pound, they get 40 pence of it, plus taxes. So they're getting a fair chunk of everything they turn over. So you would think it's in their interest to get as much money as they can. But they seem to have done quite a lazy job. And it weren't until I chased them up today and said, well, hang on a minute. Where's my items? Where's my pictures? You hadn't even, first of all, they hadn't even sent me the pre-sale report. So I didn't even know my lot numbers. I had to go through the entire auction looking for my lot numbers. Right. Then I emailed them, complained, said, well, where's all my images? I said, and you didn't send me my pre-sale. What lots am I got? I don't even know what lots I am. They apologised. They said there was a problem with the sale room. It was a glitch on the sale room, and that they would resend the pre-sale, which I had straight away. I got to be honest with you. They dealt with that straight away, and I went back online, and half the images had been uploaded onto the sale room. I emailed them back and said, no, still not there. Showed them the lot numbers, blah 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 blah. All the rugs now had no images. 10 minutes later, they were all back up and fixed. But that's a day or two of potential viewing I've lost on the images. Anybody who viewed last night and this morning and that, I've lost all them viewers because they wouldn't have seen them. Furthermore, when you see the descriptions they put on some of the items, you'll actually be quite shocked. So my question is this really. I have done everything I can. I've given them good items. I've given them no reserve and said, do the best you can. And I feel they've done far from the best they could. I feel, in fact, they've done quite a sloppy job. But we'll have a little look at it anyway. Hopefully, the final price will vindicate what's gone on. And the worry I've got at the moment of seeing hundreds of pounds sinking down the drain going, bye, 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 won't be a reality. But it's not looking good. It really isn't. Take a look at these items, okay? So we're going to start off here. The first item is a early 20th century genuine period Art Nouveau fireplace. This is cast iron and it is Art Nouveau pattern. It's a beautiful fire surround or fire insert, whatever you want to call them. Right, fireplace. Now, first of all, they've skipped Art Nouveau out of the title. You can't mistake that. That's Art Nouveau. Right. They have described it on there. They've said they put the measurements on. I'm happy with that, and there's a nice image. It's starting at £1. It haven't had a bid yet. And as you can see, they've just copied the title into the description. No actual description. It's just a copy paste of the title repeated. Now, I was asking about £70 for this in Malvern. I would have took 50 if it came to it, but I was asking 70. So there's the first item. These I bought 5, 6, 7 years ago. I bought them in Splot Market. I paid £70 for these, but I wanted them for myself. But now they're up for sale. It's a pair of early mid-century Grafton swivel chairs. So this sort of plastic, lucite, whatever it is, body, and then the very ugly linen seat covers. Anyway, they're early Graftons. They're in for £1, and again, no description, no sizes, no descriptions, nothing, just a pair of Grafton swivel chairs. It is what it is. They're up for £1, at least the photo's there now. Now, these are Billy Bones, and Billy Bones is a brand, it's like searching for Dalton or Beswick. These are Billy Bones. They've taken out the Billy Bones out of the title and just put Funny Bones. It is what it is. There's almost 2 skeletons worth of parts in here. There's only one stand, but there's almost two full skeletons. And it's not just skeletons, it's the skeleton, the veins, the skin, the everything. It's all there. You can build 2 people almost out of that. Anyway, it's on £1. At least now they got the images up. You can see there's body parts, there's all sorts in there. Alright. I was asking about £75 for this again, but I would have took around 50 again. So, you know, we're talking nice items. We're not talking boxes of miscellaneous junk that are worthless. This is my biggest fear, my biggest regret. Now, I bought this from a charity shop a couple of years ago for £150. It's stunning. It is hand-carved pine rocking horse. It's a full-size rocking horse as well. And what is the description? a wooden rocking horse. And up until a few hours ago, he hadn't had a bid and he didn't have a photograph even. There was no image on there. This is stunning. The saddle has been stitched to the wood body. It's beautifully carved. It's got a proper horsehair mane. It is gorgeous. It started at £1 and I'm nervous. I think this one is going to hurt. If this one sells for £40 or £50, this one is going to hurt. I paid 150 for it. I was asking 300 in Malvern. And I think it's worth every penny of that because when you look them up online, they're up £1,000 plus. It's a handmade, hand-carved pine rocking horse. It's stunning. It really is beautiful. If you got a nursery, you wouldn't do any better, trust me. At the moment, it's on £22. Now, I had 3 rugs up in Malvern. I was £100 each on the big rugs, and I was £50 on the small rug. But I would have took an offer. I'd have come down to about 75 each on the big rugs, and maybe 40 on the little rugs. So I'm looking for about 180. I would have had about 180 on the 3 rugs in Malvern. This is a huge rug. It's the full size of a room. Right? It's on £1. This is a Persian wool rug, mind. Persian wool rug. It's up for £1. But again, it had no images at all up until this afternoon. So I'm hopeful now the images are up, it will actually get some bids. These scales, I don't know whether they are sweet scales, shop scales, whichever. They're the Salters thermo scales, they're called. Now it's got the scale, the hook, and the tray. I was only asking 15 quid for these up in Malvern, 15, 20 quid. I'd have took tenner if someone offered it to me, so we'll see what that gets. Maybe that one will surprise me and pull 20 or 30, you never know. This is another of the rugs. This is the smaller of the rugs. We have a Turkish, beautiful handmade Turkish rug, and I would have liked to have had 40 quid on this. I'll be honest with you, up in Malvern. Don't I say madly? It's a nice rug. It's no point showing the descriptions because the description is just copy paste of the title. This is one of my biggest annoyances with this auction at the moment. Now these are 2 covers of petrol pumps from a local garage. So they are petrol and gas automotive memorabilia. And they've described them as 2 fiberglass covers. There's no mention of them from a petrol station, gas station, or there's no mention of the brand total there. Nothing. Just 2 fiberglass covers. I was disappointed with that. If they'd put petrol down or gas and oil related, anything like that, the people would have already been on them. Could people have keywords and alerts for certain keywords? 2 fiberglass covers. It doesn't really do it justice. Now, another thing that annoyed me with this one was this chair. Now, we have a carved mahogany dining chair, right? Victorian one. Okay, they've got the chair there in view. They don't show the legs. The legs are beautifully carved. And up along the top here is all beautiful carved shells. And instead of photographing the carving, they photographed the lot number. And I think, why you done that? Photograph the carving. So I don't think, unless the prices reflect enough, I don't think I'll be selling in this one again. I'll probably try a different auction house. Looks to be good for buying because I've placed about £2,000 worth of bids whilst dealing with this auction now. Now that chair was supposed to go in with 2 of these magazine racks, and they've split them up. So now instead of one big attractive lot, I got 3 individual lots, which means I got to pay 3 lots of listing fees. So whatever the auction charges me per lot, minimum charge per lot, whether it's £4 or £5, I got to pay 3 of those instead of 1. Will it work out? I don't know. But even with this, they've put it down as a reproduction magazine rack. Why not just call it a magazine rack? Why put the word reproduction? Who says it's reproduction? Yeah, it's 20th century, but it's beautiful. Anyway, it's up for £1, and they split it up. It should have been in with another magazine rack and that carved mahogany chair. This is the other magazine rack, which is a mahogany magazine rack on casters. And they're actually Canterbury magazine racks, but hey-ho. And again, So all this stuff is starting at £1, so I'm extremely nervous, to say the least. Then we got I didn't tell you, did I? Let me go back quick by here. These I was asking £30 each, 50 for the pair, but I would have probably took 40. The chair I was asking 20 quid on. I would have took £10-15 on that. These I was 20 quid each again. I'd have took probably 15 quid. £15 again I would have took. I was asking like 20 quid each on them. This lamp I was actually about £40-45 on there, but I would have took anything over 30. These stools I was at tenner each, or 40 quid for the lot. There's 5 there. And they're currently up to £6. The funny thing is, somebody actually bid £3 on the 5 stools, thinking they were going to buy them for 3 quid. That's the shocking part. And then we got another rug. This was the third rug. Beautiful thing. Handmade Kurdish rug. So I'm hoping some of these rugs sell, because they are really good rugs. And then we have a mirrored wall shelf with coat hooks to the base. It's actually a mirror with a French chateau all designed and presented on the mirror. So it's like an advertising mirror. And it's ebonized wood there in black. Really pretty little thing. Anyway, that's the lots I got in auction. They turned me down on the 19th century arts and crafts bed, which I've chucked up on Facebook Marketplace, no bites yet. And they turned me down on the large African painting, if you saw that in the Malvern video. That's the only things then that I wanted to put in. All the rest of it they took. Apart from the other stuff then I took back to the unit, to the storage. I'm very nervous. There's a lot of money by there. That by there owes me quite a bit of money. Even if you just worked on the rocking horse of 150, the 2 Grafton chairs at 70, that's 220. I think I paid about 50 quid for the bones. I'm probably about £400-500 into that lot, all them auction lots there. If I can receive anything close to what it owes me after taxes and after commissions, I'll consider that a victory and a win. But we're going to take a look later on at what they actually sell for. The auction's tomorrow. So I'll save this video now and then I'll splice it in. I'm not going to watch it live. I've placed about £2,000 worth of bids on everything from paperweights to Meissen porcelain to Chinese porcelain to just so much stuff. Bronze busts. Honestly, I've placed about £2,000 worth of bids. But what I will say is I've been extremely cheap. So yes, I've placed a lot of bids, but I think if I win 1 or 2, I'll probably be lucky at the price I've put them on. They got a lot of silver in the sale. I'm not expecting to get any of that, but there's a beautiful claret jug. I chucked 70 quid or 75 quid on it. So it's a fair bid. There's nothing wrong with them. And they got some collections of paperweights, and I've chucked 100 quid on this and 100 quid on that. So we see what happens. But yeah, I think I've done about 40 bids. I just gone through the auction looking for my lots because obviously I didn't have the pre-sale report. So I'm just going, oh, I like that, I'll bid on that. Oh, I like that, I'll bid on that. I'll bid on that. And before I know it, I had like 40 or 50 bids placed. And I'm thinking, oh my God, if I win all that now. So yeah. Deathly Gay car boots still have shut down now for the season. And the rest of them are not long behind. So it's going to be an interesting winter. My plans for the winter, well, I'll go into that in a vlog later on, but I've got some really, really interesting plans and exciting plans for this winter. If you're on my membership side, you're going to be really happy because there's going to be a lot of how-to videos, educational videos coming this winter because I'll have a lot more time to make them. Already you can see that I'm disappointed with the performance of the auction before they even get to the auction itself. If I was running an auction, I would make it my responsibility to make sure I'd done the very best and got the very best price I could for every item. It means more money for you. When you consider the rocking horse, they haven't even put the measurements on. Right, how are people going to know the size of it? It's something like 4 foot long, 3.5, 4 foot tall. Right, it's a really big horse. Then petrol gas pump covers. If they'd put petrol station gas station, petrol, gas, anything, they'd already be up 10, 20, 30 quid. So I'm really disappointed in some of the things at the moment, and I'm disappointed that A, I had to chase them up for the pre-sale report. B, there was things on my pre-sale report that didn't even belong to me. I've had to contact them and say, well, actually, there was a collection of walking canes that they put onto my list saying I owned them, and I didn't. So I had to email them and say, well, I don't know who they are, but they're not mine. So there was a mistake where they didn't send me out the pre-sale report. There was a mistake where there's the wrong item on my report that doesn't belong to me. There was a mistake where the images on most of my items weren't uploaded. They've been very lazy on the titles and descriptions. It's copy-paste description, and the titles are not even keyword strong for the items. And they didn't put the auction catalogue out until yesterday, 2 days before the auction, and the images only went on a few hours ago, and the auction's in the morning. So my items have got like 12 hours worth of images or 14 hours worth of images before it goes live for the auction. So how many people have I lost as potential bidders, if you like, for the items? What could they have achieved? So yeah, we'll see. Make sure you stick around, see what stuff sells for, and then we'll have a little chat afterwards. You can see the disappointment in my face as I'm really, really sad, because I honestly think I'm going to have my backside handed to me on this one. I really am. And the worst part is, right, I consider myself to be a very careful dealer. I'm very cautious on what I pay out. I don't spend a lot of money on stuff unless I think it's worth it. So when I put £150 down on a rocking horse, or 50, 60 quid or 70 quid on a pair of chairs, they're worth it. And then to see the stuff sitting in an auction for £1 is criminal. Because I went no reserve, they start them at £1. Now there's things in there starting at £80, £120. Maybe if I'd put a reserve and they started at £120 or £150, then maybe they'd still sold with the bid. Who knows? We'll have a chat anyway after the auction results. So make sure you stick around. Okay, so day of the auction. And I realised today that they haven't even put my items into the antique sale. I messaged them last week saying I had a load of antiques. Was it time to get them in the sale? They said, yes, bring it up. The antique sale is tomorrow. Today was a farmer's auction and a general house clearance sale. And they've put all of my antiques into the general sale. So I've had Persian rugs selling next to a box full of miscellaneous TV remotes. They put my rocking horse next to a TV. The antique sale is tomorrow. I don't understand. They've put Persian rugs in the general sale. Almost every item sold in this sale under £3-4. The amount of stuff that sold from £1 to £2 or £3 was shocking. Take a look at some of the figures my items brought, and then I'm going to sit down, I'm going to have a full-on chat with you, explain what's happened, my thoughts, and so forth. So, the first piece was an original Art Nouveau cast iron fireplace. And they've put it down as a decorative cast iron fire surround in black and gold. £9 it achieved. £9. I'm lost for words. A set of postal scales, antique scales, salters scales. You've got the scale, the hook, and the basket. £6 they sold that for. These were just disgusting. Now, first of all, I want to highlight, they haven't even said they were petrol station covers. The auctioneer didn't even know what they were, so I don't know who's doing the cataloguing up in Nigel Ward's, but the auctioneer on the microphone when I was listening didn't even know what these were. He was guessing, and they from a petrol station. They were listed as 2 fiberglass covers. They sold the 2 of them for £1. Now, if these had been in an antique sale or a collectible sale, anybody who collects oil, petrol, gas-related items, they should have done really, really well. They sold them for £1 in a general farmer's market, basically, and a house clearance market. There was washing machines for sale in this market, dog beds, plastic dog beds, and they put in antiques in the sale. These were the only ones that of my lots that done anywhere any good. The set of 5 stacking industrial steel stools, they achieved £210. That was the only shock of the day. A Turkish rug, handmade, hand-knotted wool Turkish rug. They sold in a farmer's market or house clearance market for £22. This one was even worse. Handmade Kurdish wool rug, £9. This one filled a room. It's a Persian rug, and it was the size of a room. It was huge. £10. Now, this was supposed to be part of a job lot of items, so there should have been 2 Canterburys and a chair. They split them up, which means I got to pay 3 lots of listings, 3 lots of photographing fees, and they sold them at £1. There's the first. Magazine Canterbury, £1. The second one, £2. Pair of Grafton swivel chairs, £28. This was disgusting. 2 full skeletons for £8. There's the Rocking Horse, £120, and they nearly sold it for £30. £32 for the mirror, £1 for the chair that should have gone with the 2 Canterburys. And that lamp I haven't gone through yet, is at £3. Okay, I can't get my head around everything that's gone on. I put nice items into the auction. You can use your own judgment on whether you think they're nice items, but a hand-carved solid pine rocking horse, full-size rocking horse, didn't deserve to be put into a general house clearance sale when there's an antique sale the following day. Handmade Kurdish and Turkish and Persian rugs didn't deserve to be put into a general sale when there's an antique sale the following day. Okay, you can argue the point with the fire, maybe the stools, things like that. They're more general auction, fine. Then they're splitting up lots, so I've now got to pay 3 lots of listing fees or minimum lot charge, 3 lots of photographing charges, and so forth. Selling items at £1, I'm actually losing money to sell them, so I just as well have gone down the dump and actually put them in the bin. So is this actually a fair representation of antiques? Now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a genuine test. Malvern was poor for trade, so I wanted to put it into an antique sale to see what type of money they'd pull with the dealers in the antique sale. Take a look. I'm going to show you the auction, just a few pages of the auction, to see the type of things that they were selling alongside Persian rugs and my carved rocking horse and so forth. So, this is the start of the day. Here they got some garden implements, but they're fine. There's my fire, my stools. They got some push bikes, loads of push bikes, some garden tools, push bikes again, deck chairs, folding patio chairs, deck chairs, children's bikes, loads of children's bikes, tins of paint. Look at that. plastic dog bed actually achieved more than an vintage solid mahogany Canterbury or Victorian mahogany carved chair, or 2 petrol pump covers for a vintage dog bed. Next to it, boxes of bric-a-brac. Look at that. Underground plastic pipe fittings. This is as general a sale as you can ever get. Let me show you some of the prices. £1, £3, £3, 7, right, a little bit higher, 18s, 12s, £3 there, £1 there. There's a couple of dearer pieces there, shockingly, like, innit? £1 again, £6. Look at that. A quantity of cables. There's a load of electrical cables there from caravans and things like that. £6 that's all for. That's all solid copper, but they had a few different lots of big, heavy wire, copper wire, and it's sold for next to nothing. I'm just lost for words. The stuff they've put, the 2 buckets of sun cream. Do I need to say any more? Now, I'm probably going to be banned from Nigel Ward for this video. And it is what it is. I'm going to give an honest review. Because let's be totally frank. We want to know, when we put our things into auction, the auctioneer is going to do the very best for us they can. I couldn't do any better. I picked good quality, nice items. I took them to the auction and said, auctioneer's discretion, do your best, and I won't put a reserve on nothing. And rather than put it into the antique sale, because I put in no reserve, they've chucked it all in the rubbish auction with literally rubbish, as you can see. Right, they were selling job lots of like 4 or 5 scooters and bikes for £1 and £2. Buckets of sun cream. You tell me, maybe it's me. I wanted to know whether the items I was selling in Malvern are out of fashion. But that's not a fair estimate. The auction has not done a fair job. The auction, first of all, they listed the auction catalogue. None of my images were on there. My images weren't on there until 12 hours or so before the auction began. 12, 14 hours before the auction began. I had to email them twice. First of all, to say none of my items had images. Then they said they'd fixed it. And I went back in and I still had to reply to them and say, no, actually, there's still quite a few. None of the rugs have got images. Then on top of that, they split up a lot into 3 lots, thinking they're going to get a lot more money for the 3 lots. And they sold them all for £4 for the 3 lots. I never even thought auctions went that low. Now, when you can sell a Turkish rug, a handmade Kurdish rug, Turkish rug, and a Persian rug, them sizes, that quality, for £6, £7, whatever they were, it wasn't even 30 quid for the 3 rugs, and the one was the size of a living room. They were in beautiful condition and all. I'm genuinely, Nigel Ward should be embarrassed at what they've done. I'll probably write a letter of complaint to Nigel Ward and ask them why they felt my items deserve to be sold alongside buckets of sun cream instead of in the actual antique sale, which goes on tomorrow morning. So they failed me by not putting the images up. They failed me with the descriptions. Now let me share with you. Oh, I don't know if I can. I'll splice in a photograph by here now, right, of my vending sheet. And I actually put down proper titles. So for the petrol pump signs, I said 2 petrol station gas pump signs or covers. And their entire thing was 2 fiberglass covers. The auctioneer didn't even know what they were. He was on the podium guessing, well, what are they? Are they from a petrol station? I don't know, he said. Genuinely, he didn't even know what they were. So who the hell is actually lotting this stuff and cataloguing this stuff and deciding where it goes? But it ain't the auctioneer. That's for sure. Or certainly when the auctioneer had done today's auction. Right? So they changed the titles to nothing that wasn't even resembling what the item was. Then my rocking horse, That's the biggest disappointment I could have had. Now, we achieved £120. I paid £150 for it. By the time I pay my costs, I'm going to receive about £80 back. So I've lost £70 on the deal. However, with everything else we're selling for sole pittance in that auction, how much would that have actually pulled had it been in the sale tomorrow? Had it been described correctly as a handmade, hand-carved, solid pine rocking horse, full size, how much would it have achieved? How much would it have achieved if antique dealers had seen it, as opposed to general people, general farmers and general house dealers, people that buy and sell bric-a-brac? Because the only antiques that seemed to go through today were mine. The rest was tat. Now, when I spoke to them 2 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, if their auction was full, they should have turned me away. Not said, yeah, bring it all in, and then chuck it all in that auction. I haven't seen an auction with that bad in I don't know how long. Now, I used to sell with Nigel Ward. I actually had an account with them. I used to sell with them regularly. I used to sell with them 15, 20 years ago. I used to do the auction circuits. And I've never experienced this with Nigel Ward before. So there, what we got? We got the images. They've messed with the titles. They've split a lot up. So make sure now they get their money. They'll get 3 lots of listing fees, 3 lots of photographing fees for the item I said to sell as a single lot. So where they achieve £4, I'm actually going to owe them about £15 for that lot, probably. It's got to be a £3, £4, £5 minimum lot charge or something like that, plus the photographing fees. Now, I wanted to know, would I sell in auction and make, with the stuff I don't want and make a living, buying the bigger pieces at the car boot sale when I see them and put them in the auction and make a profit that way. And that's how an auction treats you. So how can you have any confidence when you see stuff out and about of buying it? I took the stuff to Malvern. Now, on the overall thing, I was asking £850 give or take in Malvern. I achieved 210 for the stools, 120 for the horse, so that's 330. Let's just say the rest was like 30, 40 quid. I've achieved about 360, 370 before costs. 360, 350. I haven't added it up, I'm just guessing. It could be a little bit more. But then you've got to take 30% off that. So I'm going to get about £250 back, where realistically I was asking like £850 for that lot. Now, I may have been a little dear on the items in Malvern, but do you think them prices actually reflect the items? Now, I think, personally, I was done by them putting them in the wrong auction. Now, this is very similar to what Cardiff City Auctions done 2 or 3 years ago when I went down there and I bought a £1,000 lot for £16. I ended up getting banned from Cardiff City Auction for highlighting it. I didn't highlight that. What I highlighted was there were things were missing on the day, and I asked them to check the CCTV because I said I can't buy thieves. And when I done it, I showed I'd actually made close on £1,000 for a £16 lot, which just shows the importance of having something in the right sale and in front of the right people. And then Nigel Ward went and done exactly the same to me. It means I'll never sell with Nigel Ward again. I'll never trust Nigel Ward again. Now, you've got to ask yourself, should I put reserves on them? Yeah. But I wanted to sell them. This was a test of, I wanted to sell them so that you give an honest view of the market. Because me and Kieran, we done a chat after Malvern where I thought, is the antique industry struggling? And honestly, if you'd seen it today, the auctioneer would start at £30, £20, £10, £5, and 9 out of 10 times they didn't bid until it hit £1. The dealers in the room all know that the auctioneer goes all the way down to £1. So unless someone else bid against them, they waited until he went to £1 and then put their hand up, trying to win every item at £1. You look at the items and you tell me if the prices are a fair reflection. £6 for handmade rugs. Either that or I'm really confused at the moment with these auction games. So the way it's going, I'm not going to win anything, to be honest, doing that auction. And that just tells you how strong the bidding is there in the antique sale. In the antique sale, they get antique dealers who view the actual auction. Now, it's not as simple as saying, well, don't the antique dealers view the auction catalogue for the general? Because no, it's basically a farmer's auction and a general house clearance auction. All the antique dealers know all the antiques and the good stuff goes into the antique sale. So the antique dealers wouldn't have actually seen my items today. And it is just, in my opinion, an eye-opener of how bad things have got when things like that carved rocking horse can be chucked into a general bric-a-brac sale when there's an antique sale 24 hours later. It's interesting. I've took a massive hit. I've lost probably £500, £600, £700 without a doubt. I've lost £500, £600 easy. I don't know how much they're going to charge me. I'm going to write a letter of complaint in and ask them why they decided to put all my stuff in along the general sale with buckets of sun cream instead of putting them into the antique sale that was the following day. And I'm going to actually see what they say. And if they actually come back and say, well, we didn't feel they were good enough for the antique fair, the antiques auction, I'll share it with you. And then you can use your own judgment. Because if you're going to use an auction house, you've got to ask yourself, what are they going to do with your items? Are they going to do the best for them? Because if you think a Kurdish rug, an antique Turkish, Persian to Kurdish rugs don't deserve to be in an antique sale, or that carved rocking horse didn't deserve to be in an antique sale, you're mistaken. Them skeletons, there was 2 complete skeletons in the bag. Only one stand, but 2 complete skeletons they call Billy Bones, and they're really, really collectible. And they sold 2 full 6-foot tall skeletons for £6. They labelled it as a bag of funny bones. As far as I'm concerned, Nigel Ward need to be ashamed of how they've performed today. But I would love to hear your opinions. Yeah, I'd love to hear your opinions because maybe the items deserved nothing more than the general sale, you tell me. Maybe I'm mistaken. But after 30 years of doing this job, I know what's good and what's not. Anyway, I'll wait and see what you say, what your opinions are, and no doubt I'll do an update in a couple of weeks, see if I've been banned from Nigel Ward's now for putting this video out. But I'm telling you now, if I use a service that is antique related and it is this appalling, I'm going to do a review. It's that simple. It's not about trying to take a punch back at Nigel Ward. It's about making you aware how the auctions potentially treat your items, how they value your custom or lack of value for your custom. If you want to sell in auction, you've got to really consider where they're going to be putting your items. You're going to have to make sure you have a reserve because these auctioneers obviously clearly don't care. And if I ever do it again, I'd make sure my items are going into an antique sale and not in a general sale. Because I tell you now, odds are I'll never sell with auctions again. I don't like buying at auctions as it is. I've always said it's basically whoever's willing to take the least profit. The prices I pay for stuff at car boot sales and antique fairs and things when I go out and find it myself and I dig it out the boxes on the floor, I pay such a little amount of money that it allows me to make plenty of profit. The prices that these items are going to go for in this auction suggests to me that it's going to be very hard to sell them or very small profits at the end, and I can't live on a 10% margin. I really can't. Are auctions a way of selling antiques? Yes, clearly, because you look at the antique side of it and they're selling well. But you then got to make sure that they treat you right. I don't know. I give up. Honestly, I'll never sell with Nigel Ward again. And if Nigel Ward are watching the video, you genuinely ought to be ashamed of yourself. I understand you blamed the sale room, and it could very well have been the sale room for the error for the images, fine. Not an issue. They were fixed before the auction, fine. Even though I lost a day or two or whatever it was of the images on the catalogue. Then changing titles to not even relate to the product. And then putting it all in the wrong sale. Yes. I'd love to know your opinions. And if you agree with the auction and you think the auction did a good job and so forth, say it. I'm more than happy to consider anybody's opinion. I got no problem being wrong. I got no problem being told I'm wrong. But let's see what you actually think. You looked at the items. You saw the items that I've listed in the auction. And you've now seen the prices they've paid. Would you be happy yourself with them prices? Or would you have paid more? If you was in an auction, do you think you could have bought them for that price? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.